Giulio Squillacciotti is an artist and filmmaker who lives and works in Milan. He is a residency fellow at the Van Eyck Academy and a recipient of the Italian Council grant. He was also recently awarded by the Talent Prize 2019. His book, What Has Left Since We Left, was promoted by Kerov in collaboration of the Van Eyck Academy and with the support of Italian Council, and was published by Onomatopoeia. Giulio, could you introduce us the book and the project in its all aspects?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. So the book is the kind of result, a sum up of a 1.5-year project, which is based on the idea of speculating around the fictional end of Europe. So it all started with a film, which is shot in the Maastricht Hall, where the Maastricht Treaty was signed in 1992. And the film is a short film, written fiction, actors, with all the cinematic aspects. And out of that, I really felt the need of putting together some of the reflections that came out during the writing of this film. And they are all collected in this book, which is a book basically made out of 5 essays commissioned to writers, poets, artists, philosophers coming from different disciplines, to which I asked to contribute to this idea of Europe through the allegory of Europe as a love affair or a love story. So to face that with all the faces that a love story can have. So the falling in love, the limbo, the breaking up, the splitting apart, the coming back together. Because the whole idea was like to see Europe as somehow a major metaphor for a family, or for an affair, or for a love relationship. And so yeah, that's basically the book. It's 5 essays, which are 5 of the 6 takes on Europe. The 6th take is the script of the film that I wrote with Dan Milius and Huibay van der Werf. And there is a collection of photographs taken especially for the book during the shooting of the film, and some backstage images of the production of the film. At the end of the book, there is the least speculating thing, because it's a timeline of Europe compiled by Enrico de Gasperis, which is an historian, and it's a timeline of Europe from the end of World War II up until Brexit.
You chose 5 different figures, 5 different contributors. They come from different fields, but are not only different fields, also different countries. Could you describe the choice you made?
Well, the idea was somehow to talk about Europe through this allegory, and given this fact, the idea was even to step back a bit and not write within Europe, but trying to have an external point of view every now and then. So the very first essay in the book is by Ayşe Zarakol, which is a political scientist from Turkey teaching at Cambridge. And she basically says this allegory through Europe as a family, a marriage, a social club, or something else altogether. And every now and then she talks about the point of view of Europe from Turkey, when back then Turkey seemed to be really close to getting to the European Union. And she says the historical differences that brought Europe and Turkey to be at the actual stage. And there is a very interesting, more than an essay, is a kind of a prose narrative, very poetical piece of short novel written by Marwan Moujaez, which is an artist that I met back then when I was resident at the Jan van Eyck Academy. And he's an artist from Lebanon, who lives in Paris. And the idea was with him, while discussing what and how he could contribute to the book, the idea was to kind of retrace the myth of the kidnapping of Europa by Zeus, because Europa was a Lebanese princess kidnapped by on the shores of Tiro, and so he kind of incarnates herself, and he writes a lot about language and about the way his name is pronounced in France. There is another, so he's from Lebanon, from Turkey. There's an Italian philosopher, Federico Lodoli, wrote through Nietzschean kind of decalogus or something like that. He talks about identity and the idea of Europe as a common body that came up together after the war. So somehow our union is based on the fear of conflict, and through the cycle of our boroughs of repeating history, he kind of just leaves the end of his essays as an unforeseen future of what could happen of Europe in the future. And there is Marina Lalovic, who's a journalist from Belgrade in Serbia, living in Italy, and she writes about her experience as a former Yugoslavia born, and in the moment in which Yugoslavia was falling apart, she moved to Europe. And so it's a kind of, again, of a history repeating of a forced union of people that can fall apart or maybe fall in love again with each other. And closing all the essays part, there is Erika Petrillo, who's a writer, a curator. She wrote a prose piece, narrative fiction, called Political Tinder, and she sees Europe as basically as a dating app. So she gets through some characters who impersonates countries of Europe that can fall in love with each other or have one-night stands or short love affairs through an app, which excludes people coming from other countries.
So you chose an affective dimension, and that's interesting. But do you think that these emotions about Europe can also touch the younger generations?
I think more like rather than the matter of generation. I think what is interesting to me as a European that had the experience of traveling around Europe is more the location that matters. So the geography, because the way Europe is thought, I don't know, in the Netherlands or in Belgium is way different from the way it's thought in Italy, for example. So yes, can be generation wise, but at the same time it can even be really location wise, like the effect, or I don't know, the experience, whether I don't know younger or older generation have towards Europe is really subjective. Of course, I think with the last European elections, I think the evaluations of the votes were who voted for European parties were basically the younger ones, as well as, I don't know, seeing the case of Brexit, the younger ones were the ones voting to remain, and the old ones were. But at the same time, having had the chance of traveling quite a bit, I see that, I don't know, in the Netherlands, for example, or in Belgium, or maybe not in France, but like in Germany, like the way Europe is seen is more like as I don't know, as a country, as a block of people rather than generations. Then maybe it's a matter of case by case. But I think who had the chance of traveling around, of being born European and having having had the chance of studying, traveling, living abroad with no borders, will have to see a world with borders again to kind of appreciate the fact of not having borders within this kind of milieu of countries that we are.
Giulio, in your opinion, can we still fall in love with Europe? Are you still in love with Europe, or do you live a conflict with its identity?
As I write in the introduction of the book, I'm deeply in love with Europe, and I strongly believe in Europe as a nation somehow. And I struggle a bit with defining the identity, and I found out that sometimes Europe, or actually back then when Europe started, was somehow sometimes described more for what Europe wasn't than for what it was. So I remember the two poles of attraction, like American capitalism and Soviet Union. So Europe could be at the center of it, by maybe not defining what Europe was, but what for sure wasn't the American capitalist, and it wasn't like the at the same time it wasn't the Soviet Union. So it was a third way, basically. And maybe that's enough, a third way, or maybe we should come together with the common history we have, because we are different, but I strongly believe we're better together than apart. Like,
thank you, Giulio. What has left since we left by Giulio Squillacciotti. Thank you for your time.
thank you very much.